Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello everyone. Welcome back to this course on circular economy for sustainable buildings. As part of our journey to look at contraptions which contribute to circular economy, today we will look at one contraption which is the solar cooker. Today we will see what is a solar cooker, how does it work, what are its advantages. We will look at the types of solar cooker and its uses and what limitations it poses. So, solar cooker can be termed as a type of solar thermal collector. What it does is, it actually gathers and traps the solar energy or sun's thermal energy. Because of this, heat is produced when high frequency light. So, when high frequency light, which is in the visible and ultraviolet range, is converted into low frequency IR radiation or infrared radiation. So, what happens is the UV or ultraviolet and visible light can easily pass through glass. But when it strikes a surface which is dark, they get converted into long wave infrared radiation, which actually generates heat. So, this glass, which is called the glazing or the solar collector, you see this glass here, the glass, it traps these long waves. For example, on a sunny day, your car with the windows which is actually rolled up becomes a solar collector. The glass will let in the sun's energy, but it will trap the heat or the thermal energy, and therefore your car becomes hot from inside because the air gets heated. Now, as more light enters the car, what happens? The air becomes even warmer and it becomes very hot until you start to feel like it's a furnace or an oven inside. So, a solar cooker also functions on some similar principle. It's just a very random and it's a broad analogy I have given, but this is the principle. But why should we use solar cookers? Because solar cookers give us a lot of benefits that make them a very good alternative to traditional cooking method, whether you are cooking on a small scale or on a large scale. Also, solar cooker, they promote self-sufficiency because they can allow people to cook even when there is no electricity, when there is electricity shortage, or even in an emergency like situation, especially in a country like India, which is a tropical country and there is no dearth of sunlight in our country. And under such circumstances, they are a very reliable option because there are very few months in a year when we do not have enough sunlight to function our solar cooker. What happens is, because of this, our dependency on, say, our other sources of fuel gets reduced drastically. It is true that solar cookers require direct sunlight and sometimes they may even take longer cooking hours depending on the intensity of solar radiation. But then there are other benefits which are like environmental benefits. They are a very sustainable option. They have economic benefits. You don't really have to spend any money on fuel if you are using solar cooker. There are health benefits, especially if you are looking at people who cook with firewood and things like that. Against that, it offers a lot of health benefits. They are very convenient. You don't really have to do anything other than keeping the raw materials inside the cooker and it will get cooked by itself. So there is a feeling of self-sufficiency when you use solar cooker, and that makes it a very viable option and also a choice which is very appealing. Let us look at specifically the benefits in the form of, say, health and safety. What happens is, the health and safety benefits, they decrease respiratory illness which is caused by the firewood smoke. They pasteurize the contaminated water and therefore it can actually improve hygiene. Both of these are very important and they reduce the burns from traditional cooking fires. All three are highly relevant, especially in non-urban areas of India. Then they offer environmental benefits because they do not use any fuel like your LPG gas or firewood or anything, and they reduce carbon emissions because actually what you are doing, you are using only solar energy, so there's no other consumption of fuel and therefore it will reduce your carbon emission and also your pollution levels. They prevent deforestation because there is no need for firewood, which is largely relevant to the non-urban or rural or semi-rural population. They do not generate any smoke and therefore improve the indoor air quality. Let us see the economic benefits. Solar energy is free. You don't have to pay anything for the fuel cost. Also, they are not expensive. They are cheap to purchase or make because they come with a lot of government subsidy. Therefore, using a solar cooker instead of an oven will reduce your electricity bills dramatically. Let's see the working principle of a solar cooker. Let us see the working principle of a solar cooker. What does a solar cooker do? It uses mirrors to focus the sunlight. So, there is a use of a mirror which has a very high reflective surface, and this is used to concentrate and direct the sun's light into a small cooking area. So, there is a mirror here which directs the light into the cooking area. The intensity of sunlight is greatly increased when we do this. So, the solar cookers which are available currently in the market, they can be designed so as to achieve temperatures of between 65 degrees to even 500 degrees centigrade. Then they work on the principle of converting light energy into heat. So, after concentrating the sunlight, it is directed into a receiver, which is like a cooking pan. So, what it does is, there is an interaction between the light and the material of the receiver, which transforms this light energy into the heat energy. To maximize this conversion, we should use materials that can conduct and retain the heat very well. So, the pots and pans in solar cooker should be very ideally be made of dark color, like matte black in color, so that they can absorb as much light as possible. Then third is trapping the heat. So, in order to retain as much heat as possible, the effect of convection is minimized when you isolate the air inside the cooker from the external air. So, placing a glass lid on the cooking pot will enhance the light absorption from the top and it will reduce the loss of heat through convection. So, this glazing material will capture the incoming sunlight but is opaque to infrared thermal rays, and therefore this further improves the cooker's ability to withstand and hold the heat. There are various types of solar cookers which can be used for various purposes and which are better in one or two of these techniques or in all of these techniques. So, what are the types of solar cooker? First is the box cooker. So, a box cooker is also known as box oven. This can cook the same food that can be cooked in a regular oven or in a crock pot, or which is also a slow cooker. As the name suggests, they have a chamber or a box. But that does not necessarily have to be square shaped, but it still has a box. And it uses reflectors which concentrate more sunlight into the box, and there is a glazing which allows the sunlight into the box and then traps the heat and insulation in order to retain as much heat as possible. So, commercially made box ovens can reach even 400 degrees on a clear sunny day. Then there is something called as panel cooker. So, panel cookers can cook the same food that can be cooked in a regular covered pot on which is kept on top of a stove. What they do is they use the reflectors to actually gather a large area of sunlight and it directs it towards a black cooking pot that is placed in a high temperature oven bag. The air inside the bag that surrounds the pot is the insulation that can retain the heat. The temperature inside the pot of a panel cooker can reach and maintain boiling consistently for a longer time. Then there are parabolic cookers. Parabolic cookers can be used even for frying or grilling of food. So there are pot lids and cooking bags that are not necessary. They use the reflectors, which is like a parabola. They use reflectors which concentrate large amount of sunlight into one single focal point, and by this the temperature can reach even 500 degrees centigrade. So these, as we know, are more useful for mass cooking. And then we have the evacuated tube cooker. So, a evacuated tube cooker gets hot enough to cook even meat, or it can even make bread or vegetables or even desserts. We will see each of this one by one in greater detail. First is the box solar cooker. So, the box solar cooker works by trapping sunlight and it converts it into heat, which is then used to cook food inside a box. This design is based on the principle of heat retention and reflection to maximize the temperature inside the box. It has certain components such as a outer box, the outer box like this, which is actually its main structure. It could be made of wood, cardboard or even plastic, and it should provide insulation and stability. Then we have the inner cooking chamber. This is the section where food is placed, usually made with a heat absorbing material which can be black in color. So, it could be a black metal, because the dark color will help to absorb more sunlight. Then we have the reflector panels. The reflector panels like this, made of obviously reflective materials. It could be aluminum foil or mirrors. So, these panel will direct additional sunlight into the cooking chamber to increase the heat. It must have a transparent cover, because glass or plastic is used as a transparent lid to allow the sunlight to enter, and it can prevent heat from escaping creating something like a greenhouse effect inside the box. So it's so warm that the food ends up getting cooked. And then you have the insulation, which is the space between the inner and the outer box, and this is filled with a insulating material like a foam or no, any kind of insulating material which does not prevent the heat from going out. And then how does this work? So this works on the principle of heat absorption. So sunlight which enters the box and heats the black surface, then through conduction the heat is transferred to the cooking pot inside and then maintaining a temperature range. So it can reach temperature even between 65 degrees to 400 degrees, and it is suitable for various cooking tasks. It operates through, first is concentration of sunlight, concentration of sunlight. So the box solar cooker, it is equipped with a reflective mirror that is positioned strategically to capture and concentrate the sunlight, and this mirror directs the sunlight into the insulated box, maximizing the amount of solar energy that enters. Second thing it does is converting solar energy, converting solar energy to what energy? To heat energy. That is how cooking will take place. Solar energy to heat energy. So inside the box where you have the cooking vessel, it is typically painted black in color to enhance the absorption, and this concentrated sunlight which strikes the black surfaces, they cause the molecules to vibrate and generate heat through a process of conduction. This interaction converts solar energy into heat energy effectively, and it starts the cooking process. Then next is important thing that has to be done is you need to trap the heat. Once you get the heat inside, you should be able to trapping of heat. Trapping of heat should happen. So to retain the heat, this box is insulated, which will minimize heat loss. So there is a double glazed glass lid which covers the box, and it allows sunlight to penetrate while trapping heat inside. This design will prevent convective heat loss and maintain high temperatures within the cooker, even reaching up to 300 degrees centigrade. What are the advantages of a box solar cooker? The first advantage is the environmental benefits, because you don't require fuel, you are able to reduce carbon emission, you are able to reduce pollution effect. The next one is it is cost effective because it utilizes free solar energy, and that can lead to savings on fuel cost. And then third value is the nutrition quality. So slow cooking, which is also actually, if you want to do slow cooking, which is a method of cooking which is done to preserve the flavors and nutrients better than conventional method, there are things which you can purchase called as crock pots. So there is a method of cooking which is called as slow cooking, for which you need a special device or gadget, but then the box solar cooker can double up as a crock pot or even as any other regular meal preparing contraption. Next we will see the panel solar cooker. So the panel solar cooker is a type of solar cooking device that uses flat reflective panels that can concentrate sunlight into a central cooking area. This is very simple affordable and portable, making it a good option for cooking, like a basic solar cooking method. It has these following three components. First is a reflective panel made up of materials like aluminum foil or any shiny metal or mirror surface, and these panels are arranged around the cooking area. Now, like a flower, it is arranged around the cooking area to reflect and concentrate sunlight into the food. Then you need a cooking vessel like this inside, which is typically black or dark colored pot, which absorbs the sunlight which is reflected from the panel, and because of its dark color it will be able to absorb with greater efficiency and convert it into heat. The pot is placed in a clear heat resistant plastic bag or under a glass cover so that it can trap heat and act more like a greenhouse. And then third is you need a base or stand. So a simple base or frame can hold the reflective panel and the cooking vessel in position, and this setup can ensure that you have a very stable contraption where sunlight is concentrated effectively on the pot. And how it works is that there is concentration of sunlight. This is most important, that you need to concentrate all the sunlight and reflect it on the pot. So the reflective panels, they are angled to direct sunlight into the cooking pot from all the direction, and because of this the intensity of heat around the food starts to increase to create a greenhouse effect. So the pot is enclosed in a clear plastic bag or under a transparent cover, which allows sunlight to pass through it, and in that process it traps the heat, which helps to cook the food more efficiently. And then third is you should have heat absorption. So the black pot will absorb the concentrated sunlight, turning it into heat, which then cooks the food slowly. So how does the operation actually happen? First is through its design and structure. So it happens primarily because of the design or structure. So a panel solar cooker typically consists of a cooking vessel which is dark colored and enhances heat absorption. It should have a reflective panel that can gather all the sunlight. It should have a cooking vessel which is placed inside a transparent medium like a oven cooking bag or a glass bowl, which can help to trap the heat. The second is solar concentration. Second is we should have contraptions for solar or sunlight concentration. So the reflective panels are designed to capture and concentrate sunlight onto the cooking vessel, and these panels are usually made from materials which are highly reflective. They could be aluminum foil or polished metal or anything like that, and by angling the panels correctly, by keeping the panel at the correct angles, they can direct the sunlight towards the cooking pot, and this can maximize the amount of solar energy that is concentrated. Third is heat absorption. Heat absorption. So, as sunlight strikes the dark surface of the cooking vessel, the light energy is converted into heat energy through a process called conduction. The cooking pot will absorb the concentrated solar energy, causing its temperature to rise. This will allow the food inside to cook effectively. Then fourth is heat retention. To retain the heat generated, the cooking vessel is often enclosed in a transparent bag or bowl, and this setup creates a greenhouse effect, trapping the heat inside and preventing it from escaping. The transparent cover will allow sunlight to enter while minimizing heat loss through convection. And then the fifth or the main process is the cooking. So, cooking happens because in a panel solar cooker, which is similar to a crock pot or solar cooker, it requires longer cooking time, and also compared to a conventional method, it takes maybe 2 or even 4 hours for the food and the intensity of solar radiation to fall on it, and it is best for things like stews or soups and things like that. This is an excellent method. And then what you have to do is you have to monitor and adjust. So, monitoring and adjusting. So, to ensure that there is optimal cooking, users need to regularly or periodically adjust the angle of the reflective panels to keep them aligned with the sun as it moves across the sky. This adjustment is very crucial for maintaining maximum sunlight concentration on the cooking vessel. Maximum sunlight concentration on the cooking vessel. So, what are the advantages of panel solar cooker? First is they are very simple and affordable. The design is very basic. It can be made from common materials, and making it is very inexpensive and it is easy to build. Second is these can be lightweight and portable. So, panel solar cookers are very light and they can be folded for easy transport, making them great for camping or emergency situations. Third is they are eco-friendly. Like other solar cookers, they rely completely on renewable energy source, which is the solar energy. Then let us look at the parabolic cooker, solar cooker. So, a parabolic solar cooker uses a parabolic shaped reflector like a bowl to concentrate the solar energy and reflect in a particular direction in a concentrated manner. So, there is it is designed to have a small focal point which can create intense heat and to focus on the cooking food. This type of solar cooker is very efficient at focusing solar energy, and it can reach very high temperature. So, what are the main components of the parabolic solar cooker, which is actually not there in the box solar cooker also? First is a reflective parabola. So, what happens is there is a curved reflective dish that can concentrate sunlight. This is made of reflective material like aluminum or lined with polished metal or even mirrors. This should be designed to have a focal point. So, the point where all the reflected sunlight converges is very important because this is where you should place the cooking vessel. Third is it should have a cooking stand. Say a stand which can hold the food. For example, when you have the solar energy strike and reflect on the pot, you should be able to have a pot in the center of the bowl or the parabola on which the entire solar energy is concentrated. So, you should have a stand. It could be a stand like this on which you can keep a pot, or it could be a stand like this on which the pot could be hanging or dangling. Then you should have solar tracker, which can be optional. So, some advanced models can have a solar tracker, because it will automatically adjust the position of the cooker or even the direction of the bowl to follow the sun, and because of this you can maintain maximum efficiency throughout the day. So, how does it work? You have the parabolic shape and concentration of the solar energy. This is the most crucial and critical component of the cooker in a parabolic reflector. The parabola, it's a mathematical curve with a very unique property where parallel rays such as sunlight can hit the surface of the parabolic dish, but they are reflected and concentrated at a single point called as its focal point, and therefore there is reflection of sunlight. So, the reflective surface of the parabola, which you can get because of a highly polished metal or aluminum foil or mirror, this directs the incoming solar radiation onto the cooking bowl. So, the solar radiation which falls gets directed onto the cooking bowl. So, you should have a focal point, and this focal point is the location where the sunlight will converge and where highest temperature is achieved. At this point, a cooking pot or pan is placed, so it absorbs the concentrated heat. Then there is something called temperature at the focal point. The intensity of sunlight at the focal point is very high compared to the temperature of the surrounding area. Depending on the size and efficiency of the parabolic reflector, temperature at the focal point can reach even up to 200 or 300 degrees centigrade. This is similar to a oven actually. It's that hot. It's not warm, it's hot. And the pot at the focal point is also made in such a way that it absorbs the concentrated solar energy, which heats up the surface and cooks the food inside. The dark color of the cooking pot is essential and necessary because it absorbs more sunlight and heat compared to the light colored or reflective pots. Then third, you have energy conversion happening and therefore cooking happening, because at the focal point the concentrated sunlight is converted into heat energy, and this allows the food inside the cooking vessel to be cooked. This process involves two main heat transfer mechanisms. First is radiation and second is conduction. During radiation, what happens is the intense sunlight which heats the cooking pot through the radiant energy, this direct solar energy is absorbed by the pot's surface. For conduction, once the pot surface heats up, this heat is transferred into the food which is inside through conduction. This allows the food to be cooked completely. So, conduction will ensure that heat spreads evenly through the pot, helping the food to get cooked uniformly. For all this, you have to be very careful to align and track the sun. So, for the parabolic solar cooker to function optimally, you must align it to the sun's position in the sky. So, your initial setup will be that at the beginning of cooking, the parabolic reflector should be adjusted so that it directly faces the sun. So, this will maximize the amount of sunlight that hits the reflective surface and is focused on the cooking pot. Next is solar tracking. Now, as the sun moves across the sky throughout the day, the angle of incoming sunlight will change. To maintain optimal performance, this cooker needs to be adjusted every 15 to 30 minutes to ensure that the focal point can remain aligned to the pot. This can be done either manually or you can have an automated solar tracker. This will use its sensors and motors and follow the solar movement. Now we will look at the advantages of a parabolic solar cooker. There are great advantages such as maintaining high temperature. So, parabolic solar cooker can reach much higher temperature than other types of solar cookers, and this makes them ideal for frying, grilling and boiling. Next is fast cooking. Because of the concentrated energy, the food can get cooked very fast compared to a box or panel solar cooker. And third is direct heating. Unlike some solar cookers that use indirect heating, parabolic solar cookers heat the food directly at the focal point. And then we will see the evacuated tube solar cooker. So, what is this kind of a solar cooker? This is a type of solar cooking device that uses a evacuated glass tube to concentrate and retain solar energy for cooking. This design is known for its high efficiency and effectiveness under varying weather conditions because of its excellent thermal insulation properties. This kind of a solar cooker comprises of the following parts. First is the evacuated glass tube. This is the main component which has a set of cylindrical glass tube. If you see, this is the cylindrical glass tube which contains a vacuum between two layers of glass. This vacuum acts as an insulator, reducing heat loss by convection and conduction. Second component is the absorber plate. Inside each evacuated tube, there is a metal plate that will absorb solar radiation and convert it into heat. Third is base or stand. A simple base or frame can hold the reflective panels and cooking vessel in position, and this will ensure the setup to be stable and sunlight is concentrated effectively on the pot. And then we have the heat transfer fluid. This circulates through the system and is heated by the absorber plate inside the evacuated tubes. And the fifth component is the cooking chamber or heat exchanger. The heat from the stored fluid is transferred to the cooking vessel or directly to the food through a heat exchanger. Let us see the working principle of a evacuated solar tube. Now, the working principle is that there is collection. So, the evacuated tubes will capture and concentrate sunlight. Next is there is heat transfer happening. So, there is absorber plate and this will heat the fluid circulating inside the tube. Third is storage. So, heated fluid is transferred to and stored in an insulated tank. Fourth is cooking. So, hot fluid from the tank is used to heat the cooking vessel or the cooking chamber. And then there is adjustment. The system's position is adjusted so that you can maximize solar exposure and efficiency. The main operation involves solar energy collection, because the system consists of multiple evacuated glass tubes. Each of the tube has vacuum between two layers of glass, and this will significantly reduce heat loss because of conduction and convection. Inside each tube, there is an absorber plate. This is coated with some selective material that has very high absorptance for solar radiation and has low emittance to minimize heat loss. This coating will efficiently absorb sunlight and convert it into heat. Because of this, there is concentration of heat. The absorber plate in the tubers heat up as they absorb solar energy. The tubes are typically arranged in a manifold or frame that is angled to maximize solar exposure throughout the day. And this heat transfer to fluid happens because there is fluid circulation happening inside each evacuated tube. This is either water or a special heat transfer liquid which circulates. This fluid will absorb heat from the absorber plates. The heat transfer fluid is heated as it passes through the tubes, becoming warm enough to be used for cooking. Now there is this fluid transport which is happening, and the heated fluid is transported through the insulated pipes from the tubes to a storage tank to directly to the cooking chamber. The insulation of the pipe helps to maintain a good temperature and prevent heat loss. Then there is heat storage which is happening. That's the third component. So there is a storage tank. This storage tank holds the hot fluid for later use. This tank is well insulated to keep the fluid hot over time, allowing for cooking even when sunlight is not available. Some systems use a phase change material within the storage tank, which helps to store thermal energy more efficiently and release it gradually. The fourth aspect is the cooking process, and in this cooking process we have heat transfer to cooking vessel. So the hot fluid from the storage tank is transferred to the cooking chamber or directly to a heat exchanger that is in contact with the cooking vessel in a heat exchanger system. Second is the cooking chamber. In some designs, the cooking chamber itself may be heated by the hot fluid circulating around it. This chamber maintains a consistent temperature and it can be used to cook a variety of food. Besides, in this system, you also have a temperature control. The temperature inside the cooking chamber or in a cooking vessel can be controlled by adjusting the flow rate of the hot fluid and by managing the heat transfer. Some systems can even include thermostatic controls or manual valves to regulate the temperature. And then the fifth component is sun tracking and adjustment. So you need to align the entire system to maximize its efficiency. This system should be positioned to face the sun directly. This can be achieved by manually adjusting the angle of the tubes or the entire system, or by using a solar tracker. You can also have manual adjustment. So users will need to adjust the angle of the entire system from time to time to follow the sun's path across the sky. or you can also have automatic tracking. So, advanced systems can be used, and solar trackers that automatically adjust the position of the tube to keep them aligned to the sun throughout the day can happen. Let us see the advantages of having evacuated tube solar cooker. First is it's highly efficient. The vacuum insulation in evacuated tubes can actually reduce heat loss tremendously, and this system can be efficient even in cooler or cloudy conditions. So, I think this is the only cooker that can be effective even under cloudy times. Second is its versatility. This can be used for cooking a variety of things like boiling, steaming, even baking, depending on the design of the solar cooker. Third is it's highly durable. Because the evacuated tubes are so durable, they can withstand harsh environmental conditions like heavy winds or even heavy rain. And then they can develop as energy storage, because the system can store heat even when sunlight is not available and becomes a very reliable cooking source. So, we have seen this 4 types of solar cooker in detail. However, solar cookers can have some limitations. So, what are the limitations? So, despite being clean because you don't touch the food every time, they are affordable, they are a great alternative when it comes to sustainability, and also a great alternative to traditional cooking method, sometimes even with firewoods, which is actually not that kind to the human health. Solar cookers have some limitations. You need to understand these limitations so that we can better plan, adapt, and also we will be able to make better solar cookers which don't have these limitations. First is, these are weather dependent. So, their performance will vary with weather conditions and sunlight availability. Second is temperature control. Difficulties in achieving and maintaining precise temperature is a reality, and that is one of its deficiency. Third is size and capacity. They have limited space and cooking capacity, and this can be a great constraint. Fourth is initial cost. High quality solar cookers can be very expensive. And fifth is their safety, because there is risk of high temperature and they need to be handled manually very carefully. So, these are the limitations of a solar cooker. In today's class, we saw solar cooker, types of solar cookers, their working principles, their advantages, and overall limitations of solar cooker. With this, we will stop today's class and continue with another topic in the next week's class. Until then, thank you.